Hey everybody, what is up? It's Dr. Vibe, your host and producer of the Dr. Vibe Show, live from the worldwide office in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. You can also catch me once a month at the Good Men Project. I'm hosting their Google Hangout for premium members there, and I'm also a co-producer with Marie Roker-Jones. And that's the Good Men Project, one of the most viewed sites for men in the world. They get about 20 million page views a month, and they have about 5 million unique. Oh, see, the person on the other end's impressed. So there you go. They get about 5 million unique visitors a month. So
right on.
We're doing our thing. But the home is podcasting, and today, I'm glad I got this lady to stop from her family, her podcasting, her yoga, her like every time I open up my Google Plus page, she's on another person's show. And I'm going, what about me? What about me? What about me? Me.
I know.
I know, like, I've been waiting, and I know why she's made me wait. I know why, but let me introduce her first. I have Elsie Escobar on the line, and she is like the social community guru for Libsyn, which is one of the foundations of this show, because before I started even doing Google Hangouts, I was doing podcasting. And let me tell you, Libsyn has been money for me. They have taken my show and my platform, my presence to a whole other level. She also, she handles podcast relations. She also does yoga. You see, she's yoga-sized today in her little. And she's also the host of The Feed, which, whether you're into podcasting or not, please check that show out. Because even if you're a person that doesn't even know what podcasting is, or someone who's a seasoned veteran, there's always something to be learned from that show. So, after that wild introduction, Elsie, how are you?
Hi, I'm fantastic. Thank you so much on this lovely Saturday.
Yeah.
That we get to chat with one another.
Where are you based in Pennsylvania?
I'm in Pittsburgh.
All right, home of the Steelers and the Penguins.
Home of the Steelers and the Penguins, yes. Tons of black and orange.
All right, and let's see. You know what? Let's just get right into it. Let's go back before yoga. Let's go back before podcasting. Where is Elsie from? Where did she grow up, etc.?
Oh my goodness, Elsie's from El Salvador, Central America.
Wow.
Yeah,
nice.
I'm 100% Latina.
Okay.
And so I grew up there till I was around 9 years old, and then my family moved to Los Angeles. So we went to LA in the early 80s, and that's kind of where I did the rest of my growing up in LA.
And what was life like in El Salvador from what you can remember?
I really loved it. I mean, it was like a regular old childhood. With sprinkled gunfire and bombs.
Okay. Well, one thing you must realize that when Elsie converses, she has an amazing laugh. You can tell she has an amazing voice, and she just has fun. So if you don't like having fun, shut down the Hangout right now or shut down the podcast. So keep on.
Yeah. So yeah, it was great, but you know the country at that time was in civil strife. So there were some things that were part of my childhood that I considered normal that I found out were not normal when I wasn't in it. So there's something kind of beautiful about, being surrounded by war, but what I'm saying is that when you get sort of like used to whatever you have, and then when you move somewhere else, you have the possibility of seeing things as different, right? And so that's what I did, although it takes time to get used to like quiet. I remember first coming to the United States and hearing the quiet, just like the overall energy of everything being a lot more safe, I guess. If you could hear safety, if you could hear not being afraid, that's sort of what I had to get used to, because when you're in a country like that, you're kind of a little bit more on your feet, even if you're little, it's dangerous to do certain things, you got to look over your shoulder a lot. When you hear helicopters or anything kind of planes flying by, you kind of get a little scared, that kind of stuff. So it was part of my DNA when I moved to LA. So,
have you had a chance to go back home?
Yes, I did.
When was the last time you did go back home, and what was that experience like?
I think it was when my grandfather passed away, but I actually can't remember the exact date, year. It was not recently, but within the past, I would say probably around 2006, 2007.
Right.
And I mean, it's always wonderful to go back to see the lush green everywhere because it's very tropical, and it's also very odd to see. It is a third world country, so you see a lot of little shacks and things like that all over the place. But then
Sure.
everybody's got a TV and cell phones
Yes, of
in a
course.
little shack, and so it's sort of very, whoa, that is just so weird. And Costco's, like there's tons,
Costco's in
yeah,
El
like
Salvador. Okay, no
yeah,
problem.
there's like lots of things that you wouldn't, that you would, that's just normal for, but
Right.
they're framed in a different context. So you always end up learning things, and it's definitely not the place that I grew up in. I'm sure you've had that experience where you have memories of
Sure.
places maybe you grew
Sure.
up in, and then you go back and
Yeah.
everything's different now. It's not the
Well,
same.
it's absolutely like I'm of Jamaican heritage, and when I
Hmm.
go back down there, it's similar to what you're saying. I haven't seen any Costco's in Montego Bay yet, but I'm sure they're going to get there because Costco's everywhere. If they're not, they're going to be everywhere,
Right.
along with Walmart. So yeah, I can fully relate. So how was the transition period for you and your family moving to Los Angeles?
Eh, I think that it was okay. Uh, we sort of acclimated fairly well. My parents are pretty strong people, so my dad started working right away. My mom stayed with us, and she started volunteering in the schools as soon as we were, in our new place. And I think school was fine. I happened to have already started to learn English in El Salvador because it's part of the curriculum in school. So I had a kind of like the gist of certain words and communication. So I learned a lot while I was in school really, really fast. I picked up the language super, super fast. So I acclimated pretty easily, although I was always very shy. So I kind of felt like I didn't fit in, but that's not necessarily because that was the case. That was mostly due to me, my sensibilities.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah,
So how long did the family stay in Los Angeles?
they're still there. I'm the only one that's
Okay.
left. Yeah.
So why did you jump from LA to Pittsburgh, or was there an in between that? Because people think LA warm, from El Salvador, warm country, to Pittsburgh, which has its moments of cold. Like going, okay, of course Elsie's going to have an explanation for this as she's laughing away, but why did you leave? Would you leave LA?
I know, isn't that crazy? So, the transition actually started, well, it was tough. I was raised in a Latin American family, and I was a girl. I was the oldest girl, so there was a lot of boundaries. There were lots of boundaries. There was lots of no. There was lots of no, 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 no. And so the way that I was able to get out was to go to school, to
Right?
go to a university, right? And so I kind of moved away about an hour away from home for undergrad, and then for grad school I chose to move to Colorado. So my parents
Whoa.
didn't really have a say, so to speak, because I got into a very good program, and there were only 3 women and 5 men accepted,
Wow.
from
Congratulations.
yeah, so that there was really, it was like, oh, okay.
As long as there's education involved, the parents said it was all right.
Absolutely. And so I
There
kind
you
of
go.
went, I didn't actually, and that was so hard because I didn't actually ask permission. It was one of those things where my mom's always like, why don't you just, why? I always was like, Mom, I'm moving. I'm going here. And she was always like, what? And so I went there for a while. Then I moved back to LA after I finished grad school. And then I fell in love and I moved
Oh,
to Pittsburgh.
oh
How's
my
about that?
gosh.
Pittsburgh.
Love conquers all.
Right. Conquers
There.
the cold. Oh my God.
Now, just out of curiosity, what program did you take when you were in Colorado? What undergrad
I
program?
It was actually part of the National Theater Company, so I got an MFA in acting. So I've been, I was a stage actor for a while.
Okay.
That was the only grad program in the country that was chartered by Congress, so that was not part of a university. We actually got paid a weekly stipend to be there. It was an immersive experience. It was perhaps the best experience of my life and one of my most favorite parts of my life to date. Unfortunately, the program, because it was funded in the way that it was funded, it went, they couldn't sustain it, and the charter was lost. And so it's very sad because it cultivated some really incredible talent coming out of that place. And alas, it doesn't exist anymore. And it
Oh,
heartbreaks. I'm so sad.
oh,
I'm still,
oh.
I don't even like to think about it because it like
Okay,
breaks my heart.
okay, we'll move forward.
Oh,
So, moving to Pittsburgh.
yes. Look at your face.
No,
hmm
I'm going. Okay, so love. How did your parents handle that move?
it was kind of challenging. It was one of those things where they knew that it was something that I was going to do anyway. I've always been very like, this is what's going on. It's hard. It's sort of, how do I say it? Pig-headed, I guess. When I get
Okay,
an idea in my head, I kind of just go for it and I just do it. Which is to some degree, sometimes it's great and sometimes to a fault it might not be so good because yeah. So anyway, they were okay with it. It's a little bit challenging because most of my family is in Los Angeles. So I
right.
haven't seen them in a little bit. It's been hard for us to move because we have younger girls and we haven't wanted to put them on an airplane. It's just the thought of that makes me cringe.
Right,
And then the last time they came by was when my little one was born, who is now 2.5 years old. So
right.
yeah,
So where does yoga come into the fold here? Because you can't hang with Elsie without yoga. And
no,
where did that come into your journey?
that was in. It started when I was in college. I was intrigued by the word and the practice. I didn't even know what it was. And then part of the grad school program that I went to required yoga classes in the morning for us, which was like kind of cool. So we had like 3 days a week. I think it was 3 days a week. We had to show up for a yoga class like really early in the morning. And we had a great little instructor, and she just kind of taught us some things. It sort of resonated with me. It helped me calm down before I went on stage. Um, and then I was intrigued. I dropped it as soon as I graduated. Like I didn't really pursue anything more. And then when I was pursuing acting in Los Angeles, that town sucks your soul. you know, there's so much negativity, so much rejection, so much like, oh, it's just so, for me, it didn't resonate. And so
Right,
I started to feel the heaviness of all of that and not feeling good about myself, which has never really been a part of my DNA either. I've always been super positive,
yep,
optimistic, like, take on the world, whatever, give it to me. Here I am, happy. And it was not doing that. I mean, there were times when I was like had so much anxiety, didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to answer the phone. Oh my God, the phone. And so I kind of fell into the practice, and I started to feel that it was started to make me feel better. It started to make me feel better about myself. It started to help me become more empowered again, and that was something that was really missing. And so I ended up transitioning completely from acting into just teaching.
wow, wow, that's fantastic. So, do you remember your first class that you taught?
Yes, I do.
Okay, can you share a little bit
Oh
with
my
us?
gosh. I remember I was so scared because I didn't think I was prepared. Anytime you do something for the first time, you always think like, I'm such a liar. Like I'm so not supposed to be up here right now. This is like all like they're gonna find out I'm a total fake. you
Oh
know,
no.
Even like I went on because I loved my teachers, and so I couldn't imagine that I could do what they do, right? But I did. I actually took a job in a yoga and spinning club.
Hey,
In
hey, hey, spinning. That's one of my favorite
Oh,
things.
good.
I'm a huge into spinning, so much so I actually have a spin bike at home.
Oh, that's so great. You know what? I took a couple of spinning classes, not for lack of trying. It's just that they've never been available to me. But
Right.
actually was mainly a spinning club that offered yoga. I think that they feel that it's really great to do both because spinning is such a high like intensity and your body
Yes.
gets so warm and tight. And then you go into yoga and you kind of open everything up. So I started to teach there, and it was a very sort of exclusive little club in Hollywood, which is super zen. Walked in and everything smelled pretty and everything was all nice, and not very many people showed up for class, particularly yogis. So there weren't many people that had taken yoga before. So this
Right.
was like the best place for me to work because I had nobody that I knew. I got to teach in a way that nobody kind of saw what I was doing. I got my legs, because
Nice.
I got to do that. And so I remember that class went better than I thought. And I planned everything out, like, I had a notebook with like all the poses that I had to do, the theme that I was going to talk about, like all that stuff, like in a little sheet of paper. So
Wow. Wow. So where does, and we'll get to podcasting as we transition on here, but I know yoga is at your core, as we say in the
yes.
fitness. Where does the whole Elsie and yoga stand right now? You have your own website. You can plug it right now. And where does
No,
it stand with you in your life? Obviously, you're still teaching. What are you doing with it at this time?
I still teach. Yeah, I teach physical classes. I wish that I had more. I wish that I could step deeper into Elsie's Yoga Kula, KULA.com, which is where I have all my stuff online. But I actually have not pursued it because my brand, or at least the way that I want to kind of, the things that are really interesting me are now starting to become a lot more focused. I'm not interested so much in teaching yoga for, let's say, how would I put this? I'm less interested in teaching people who want to work out.
Right.
And I am a lot more interested in people who want to level up their lives and become aware of how everything fits together and be mindful about their entire lives, as opposed to you go into yoga and you feel so good, and then you come out and you continue your habits, you continue your behavior that you do off the mat, and how that affects you. And so I also I'm not choosing to like to go into a classroom and see students that come to see me, and then when they leave, they don't really step deeper into their practice. Like, I don't want to keep teaching the same thing over and over and over again. I want to take
Right.
people deeper. And so I'm trying to create an experience like that, both in yoga and technology, because both of those things I feel are incredibly, although paradoxically different, there's something sweetly wonderful about merging both of them. And so I'm trying to do that, to
You
get
are.
into
Well, of
both.
course, you're yogic.
Exactly.
You're geek, like,
I'm
and
the
I'll ask you how you got that before we leave, because I love that Twitter handle, by the way. I just think
Thank
going
you.
back, I'm going, Elsie's fly, man. Yo geek, I like
Yo
that.
geek.
All
Yo geek.
right,
That is moi.
that's
So
you.
yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, how did the podcasting thing start?
I know, how bizarre is that? Well, I just fell in love with it. I got an iPod in December 2005, and I've been a learner all my life. I just want to be a student. Like, if that could have been a job, I would have been a student, a full-time student. I just want to continue to study, and I had so many dreams of so many master's degrees that I would have wanted to step into. And so when podcasting came along, it was a learning thing for me. I immediately subscribed to a bunch of like podcasts that were about learning stuff. I got one on anatomy. There was another one that I stepped into that was all about computers because I was really afraid of computers. So I got into computers through podcasting because I was like, oh my God, I'm going to break this thing, you know? And then this gentleman was like teaching about real basic PC like stuff, like hardware, software, what the difference was between it, memory, why that matters, like super simple stuff. And that way, I was introduced to a local podcaster because he was in that original podcast about computers, who was local, and I fell in love with him because he was teaching something called the typical PC user, and he was such a great mentor for me about computers. And eventually he became a great mentor for me to podcast. And so I did. I started podcasting very early on because I just wanted to. I thought it felt perfect for my voice, my training. It gave me everything I wanted. It gave me a stage. And I gave me a media. It gave me my voice. So that's why
Nice,
I loved it.
nice. And what was the first show about?
My first show, my first yoga class.
No, your first podcasting show.
My What do you mean, like the one that I produced or the one that I
Yeah,
listened to?
how did that go? Do you
Oh,
remember
it
that
went
also?
really well because I didn't actually record everything on the computer because Elsie's Yoga Class used to be called Elsie's Yoga Class Live and Unplugged podcast. So it used to be something that I would stick a lav microphone on me, and I would just teach my class, record that, put it up online. And so I never really sat in front of a computer and did it.
Okay.
I did record a little intro kind of saying like, this class is about this and this and that and this, and then kind of went into the class. But the core concept of Elsie's yoga class is that you are sneaking into what I'm already doing. So I'm not doing it for you, I'm doing it for the people in front of me, and you practice along. And so it was super easy. I mean, I didn't really think about it. As the time has gone on, since I've stopped teaching live classes, I used to teach 13 classes a week, so I had plenty
How
of
many?
time. 13.
Okay, now that's a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah. And that's not including my privates, because I had a lot of private clients as well. And so, because I was making a living podcasting, it was my job. It's,
Wow.
and so, I mean, I'm sorry, not podcasting. I was making a living teaching yoga. So
right.
I was a full-time yoga teacher, and that's like almost a full schedule. I was making very, very good money. And so I could just record those classes. And now I teach 2 classes a week, and they're in an exclusive club, so I don't really have very many, like a lot of students. They're smaller, and I teach a handful of kind of privates, so I don't have the time to record them because those classes are so specific. So now I record when I have time. I record to the people who are listening. Like I teach a class to the people who are listening. So my audio has changed a lot. It's no longer live. So I removed the live and unplugged portion out of it.
Sure. Do you miss doing the live stuff?
Absolutely. I wish I could, because it's just so much more organic. It's just,
right.
It's just, I feed off of the energy of the room. Just like you're doing right now. You're feeding
Absolutely.
off of this feeling, right? You're teaching to somebody. Whereas when I now teach, I have to imagine things in my head and kind of sense who I'm talking to. I have to imagine all in my head, which is fine. But I prefer the live.
Right. How did the relationship with Libsyn start?
Oh my. Well, it was because I was doing Elsie's yoga class. So eventually Rob Walsh and I kind of touched base, and he asked me to be on his show, his Podcast 411 show. So I don't remember what episode number I am, but he interviewed me for his show, and I was feeling so famous because Podcast 411 was one of my favorite all-time podcasts. Like, I loved that show. So it's like, for me, when he asked me to be interviewed, I thought, oh my God, I made it. I made it in the podcasting world.
Right.
Because I'm on Podcast 411. This is awesome.
Nice.
And so we kind of just got to know each other. And then he ended up going to Libsyn, and he asked me if I wanted to work with him. And so I kind of ended up that way. That's how I ended up over there.
Nice. And how long have you been with Libsyn now?
Since 2007, late 2007.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, right? It's just that I was behind the scenes a lot. I didn't step forward into the forward-facing kind of aspect of Libsyn for a long time. I used to do a lot more back-end stuff with podcaster relations. I used to have like more one-on-one conversations with podcasters, and a lot more of the advertising end of things and sales, and then I did a lot of the app stuff in the back end, and then eventually I sort of started taking over the blog posts and the social. That's what rocks my world. So it was very easy for me to step into that. I was just like, why are you not doing this? Why are you not doing that? So I'm like, I'll just do it, and I kind of just did that.
And I should probably step back a bit in that we you and I know what podcasting is, but we should probably you should probably give a little 30-second or minute to tell people what podcasting is, because we're making the assumption that people know what podcasting is. Totally. So I want to switch back and say, what is podcasting in your definition?
In my definition, it's just, it's your platform. It's the platform that you desire, that you want. Mainly for me, podcasting has always been an audio file, basically an audio file that, or an audio show. If you think about recording your own radio show at your own house and having it delivered via subscription model, so via something called RSS. And I know that seems kind of odd, but it's basically a show that you can subscribe to, that it's in audio format, although it can be video and PDF, and even EPUB. It's basically the basis of that podcasting is that you can subscribe to it. Now, the reason that I feel that it can be your platform is because you can do you can record at your house and sound super amazing, like, the radio stars, and you can talk about anything you want that really rocks your world, and just put it out there. I think that that's so powerful to be able to do that, and a lot of people don't really take advantage of the possibilities of that, of having your voice out into the world and how it can change lives.
Wonderful definition. I love it. How has the marketplace changed since 2007, in your opinion?
Oh man, it's gotten huge. As of now, it's just everywhere. Like before, it was so hard to, like, when you Googled podcasting, nothing came up, or 5 things came up. Like literally, the Google page was done. Like there was only one page of results. That's it. There were maybe 2 places that you could find out how to podcast. There were always podcasts about podcasting. So it was really amazing for me to be able to have seen it grow so huge in the way that it is now. Because I think now mainstream people are perhaps paying attention to the possibilities of podcasting.
Right. How have things changed for Libsyn since you joined? Because obviously you were a person, yeah, really, you were a person, you said you were in the back end, and now you're hosting a show, you're doing all these interviews. It just like, out of nowhere, I'm going, where's this, who's this Elsie lady? Like, it's like, bam! And now you told me you've been around since 2007. I'm going, how you been hiding so long?
Well, you know what? I was a mama.
Yeah.
I started I have started my baby making, like, in late 2007, and I've just been making babies and taking care of little people. And so part of the process is that you can't commit to some of these things that are kind of super live and kind of take a front-facing thing, because I know exactly how much consistency you need. I know how on it you need to be, and it's easier to do some of the back end stuff and be able to sustain managing all these different things. Now my
Sure.
girls are a little bit older, and so I felt the momentum to be able to now step into who I am, as opposed to having just my mama definition on top of my head, right? Because
Sure.
it takes some time to be able to do that in an authentic way, so that I honor my family first and foremost, and then I do
Absolutely.
the rest of the stuff. So that's why.
Good stuff. So how have things changed for Libsyn? Like, I've been using Libsyn, I think, for about 4 years, but especially in the last year, year and a half, it's really gone to another level, in my opinion, of
Right.
what Libsyn. So maybe before you answer that conversation piece, can you just share with our audience what is Libsyn?
So Libsyn is kind of like the home for your stuff, It's like where you put your media. It's we hold it. We take care of it for you, your MP3s, your video files and all that stuff. We hold it for you and we distribute it to the world. So we're kind of more behind the scenes, so most people aren't going to really go like, "Oh my God, Libsyn does that." It's like, we hopefully you won't see us. Hopefully we'll just do our job, and people will kind of follow through in that way. But um, let me see. It's changed a lot for us because, well, anyway, we're the delivery mechanism for podcasts. We are the ones that hold your stuff, and we try to do our best to deliver that content for you. So we are constantly and 100% behind podcasters. I think what was before not necessarily a challenge is that it was a company, but that was founded by like these guys, like just like these awesome, amazing, creative tech souls that created this thing like in their garage kind of thing. Like, whatever you imagine that to be, that startup mode, that's what these guys did. So they didn't have the know-how of the social media aspect of things, the front-facing communication part. And I'm not saying, and then mind you, at that time that the podcast and this company was started in 2004, none of that was that important. Twitter and Facebook and
Google
blogging
Plus.
and Google Plus, yeah, none of that stuff existed. And even when people are blogging, people are like, that was like, ooh, they're blogging, And so podcasting was like even more cutting edge. Was like, oh my God, that guy's podcasting. What is that? It's like this like little click. And so as the company started to grow, there was a lot more people coming into it. Then there was a sort of like it was harder to to join into the social media aspect of things, because that skill set of these guys was all about the tech stuff. They just needed to code it. They needed to get the stuff out. They needed to iterate. They needed to do the company stuff. They didn't have the front-facing stuff. And so when I came back from maternity leave, I saw that the possibilities of being the place for podcasters that people reached out to was just for us are grabbing. Nobody else was doing it. Nobody else is still doing it in terms of being proactive and reaching out to our audience and speaking to them and being totally open, totally transparent, and having them speak to us if they had questions right away, making it accessible. And so I kind of decided this is something that we need to do so people know who we are out in the world.
Excellent, excellent. And especially as I was seeing over the last year or so, things have just, I don't know, it sounds like you're the driving ship behind it, but Libsyn is more out there.
Yes. First forever, that was a momentum, and the whole team is on board. I mean, our developers right now are, the energy behind the way that they're doing Libsyn 4, developing that, there's a lot of creativity, there's a lot of new blood, there's a lot of I guess freedom, if you could say that, in the office and for these guys. And so it feels like they're producing more stuff. People are resonating with our work. Rob's always been out and about doing all his fantastic things too. He's an amazing advocate. I mean, Libsyn is just so lucky to have him around. He's an amazing voice in so many different levels. And so I think that now even we have an amazing support team. Crystal and I are doing now Google Hangouts where she is the support. She's part of the support team, and she's just awesome. I sit there and I go, how is she answering these technical questions so easily, just to get deep into our community as well. So I think we're taking steps to be available. I've been studying social media so much to see how important it is to put the customer first, to be able to say, oh my God, I'm so sorry you're having a problem right now. Because a lot of us just want to be heard, that's really just what we want, to be heard, to be acknowledged. And I feel, especially podcasters, since I love them so much, I want to acknowledge and love them and support them and just get them out there as much as they can.
Excellent. How has the market changed for Libsyn over the last few years? Is there a typical customer today compared to 1, 3, 4, 5 years ago, or is it still the same type of person? Like, is there a typical demographic you're seeing at Libsyn, or I don't know if I'm asking the right sort of conversation piece, but obviously you're seeing more people getting into the marketplace, obviously.
Yes, absolutely. I think that there's a higher level of understanding of what podcasting is from the get-go. So, and we used to get a lot of the hobby podcasters. There were it's like podcasters used to be generally a little bit more on the geeky side, a little bit more on the tech side, a little bit more like in their garage, kind of talking into the microphone and not really having a focus kind of thing. It was a lot more for hobbies. And nowadays I find that there's a lot more people that are coming with a little bit more knowledge and a little bit more of a set thing of what they want to do. So that's lovely to see. So there's a different type of demographic that is coming in. Although it's heavily male, it's still skewed towards the male perspective. Not even perspective, because it's not the male perspective. It's just that there's a lot more male. There's a lot of men doing the podcasting. But I don't know. I think that there's a lot more education. From our audience, from the person who joins. They're now not going like, what are you? What do you do?
No.
Why do I need you? Like, they already come because they already know that they need us. So they're like, oh yeah, I need to get a Libsyn account. Like, they already know that. Excellent. So it's nice to see.
You were just sharing that it's still pretty much a male-dominated, I guess, service or activity. I don't know the best way to play it. But you've been a female podcaster for a long time. Why are we still, in your opinion, why do you feel we're not seeing more ladies getting into the field of podcasting?
I think that there's a lot of bits and pieces that are a little bit foreign to the ladies. And things that are not perhaps part of our everyday experience, such as purchasing microphones and things like mixers and tons of cords and and I'm not, and in no way do I want to sound as if I am being sexist in any way, like women can only do these things and men can do these things. It's just that I think I'm saying for the majority of us, there's a little bit of a block to putting even a USB mic in front of your laptop or wherever it is that you're doing it. There's more little bits and pieces that are involved that are perhaps that could be an obstacle. And also I feel, and again, I feel that there's a little bit more freedom, and please, I would love a conversation with you on this. I feel that there's a little more freedom for men in terms of the time during their days to do it, because let's take an average man to be able to go to work, perhaps, you work a full-time job. Yes, you're tired and all that fun stuff. You come home and you have, some quiet time at home with the family or whatever. And then generally speaking, podcasters then just go into the basement or wherever it is that you go and you go do your stuff, right? You have your time. Whereas women, I feel within the structure of, I'm totally generalizing, perhaps a family or something like that, you might come home, let's say she's a full-time mama. So she'll go work, full-time job and a mother. So she'll go work all day long, and then when she comes home, there's still a lot more involved. There's still, dinner.
It's a great point.
The kids do, that kind of stuff. And then when you're done, your brain is fried. You don't want to continue. And if you're a full-time mom, it's the same thing because there's always little children around. Now, I'm talking absolutely from a personal perspective, but I feel that it's a little bit, the time is hard. The time is hard to sit down and record in front of something. Whereas Google Hangouts, I feel it's a little bit easier because really all you have to do is open and put your headsets on and you're on it. And everything else is done in the back end, right? Everything's back there. YouTube takes care of it. You've got the thing. You just have to figure out how to pull the audio if you want to put that out, and you don't even have to do that. So it's already set for you. Whereas if you're doing with the podcasting thing, there's an extra layer that you need to kind of add to the mix. And it's mostly you. Then you're in charge of getting the file. You're in charge of editing it. You're in charge of uploading. You know what I mean? So there's a little bit more to go on this.
Elsie, I think that was an outstanding breakdown, really and truly, because it's all about how much time one is willing to invest. And a lot of people think, and you and I can be testimonial, it takes a lot of work to put out a podcast. Even now, you're doing the feed every 2 weeks, and you've emailed me at times saying, hopefully we'll get the show out this weekend, and it's not easy. Even if you're experienced, it does take time because, again, as podcasters, we're dealing with audio quality, and we want to make sure it's edited properly, all that kind of stuff. Most people just think, oh, you've done your conversation, that's it. No, there's a lot of stuff in the background too.
Absolutely. And to me that's exciting, although it is, it's hard. I mean, sometimes it's like, gosh, it's been so hard for me to, it's not the editing that scares me. And not that scares me. The editing is perfect. It's the show notes and it's the follow-up. Because that's a lot of work, the marketing for every episode. Oh my God. Yeah. The marketing. Oh my. And so I remember I start writing, I'm like, I have to, find the Twitter handles for all these people, make sure that the link is proper, make sure I let them know about this, sending emails, and it's like all of these updates that I have to do in all these different places. I need an image, so that takes so much work. It's crazy.
I know. I know where you're coming from. Every show, it's the same thing. So I feel you, girl. I feel you. And I feel children in the background. So we'll be winding down.
She's a little sad now.
Yeah, so we'll start winding it down right quick here. But one other conversation piece. Can you, as an advocate to women podcasters, can you tell them what advantages they may be offered if they get into podcasting? If any ladies are interested, what sort of benefits they would possibly see by getting into it?
One of the biggest benefits that I have found from this is finding your voice. As a woman, to be able to say what you want, say what you mean, is very, I think it's challenging at times, at least because it's either you got it in you to say it out loud and preach it, or you don't. And this is a skill that is learned perhaps behind the mic better. You get a chance to hear your own voice. You get a chance to feel the resonance of your voice in a different part of your body. So you drop it and you let it be truthful. It's also a great way for you to articulate and to understand the gift of speech, the ability to communicate with somebody with your voice, and to use that as a tool for change, or inspiration, for entertainment. It's something that I feel was lacking for me as well when I first started to go to grad school. I was so much more afraid to talk, and I talked a little bit higher up, and it was all about being cute because I wanted to be so cute, right?
I so wish I could see videos of those days.
And so the voice was so like this, right? It was much more like I didn't want to really ruffle any feathers. It was so much higher. It was so much cute. It was more about cute. It was more about cute. I don't want to get into your space. And
Right.
then when I went to grad school, I was taught to drop my voice, to let it resonate, to allow it to get grounded. And in that midst of being able to verbalize, it was a huge transformation for me as a woman. I feel that we need that as women. I feel that we need to get our voices out there and to get better at it. And the only way to do it is to do it. The only way to refine who you are in the world is to get your voice out. So that is a total esoteric, in some way, benefit that you get from podcasting, instead of like, you'll be recognized as an expert and you'll get all kinds of, you'll tap into another audience. Like that, yeah, that's great. That's a bonus. But the bonus is really that you develop who you are and that your speaking skills are refined. And I feel it's so needed, especially for women, to be articulate, truthful, grounded, and really follow their truth. And the only way to do that is to practice.
That's great. I'll just add on to that. When I had Rob Walsh from Libsyn
Yes.
on the show, he made a very interesting point that I've shared with a few people, but if people watch this, they'll hear it generally. Rob told me everyone blogs.
Yeah.
But as Rob said, for every 800 male bloggers, there's one male podcaster. But here's the real kicking point. For every 3,300 female bloggers, there's one female podcaster.
I know, isn't that crazy?
So there's opportunities there, and I'll just leave it at that. If you want more advice, the lady's on the other end there. That's the lady you need to talk to about that, because she's been doing it. Before I get more screams going on in the Escobar house, I'm going to just wind it down here. So, Elsie, thank you so much for sharing time with us today. If people want to... Actually, before I get to that, what's next for Libsyn? What's on the horizon?
Oh my goodness, just more tools for podcasters, refining, iterating. You share with us if we are on social media and you want to give us a little feedback about something. We're totally open. Our developers are wanting to give you what you want, and the only way to do it is for you to talk with us. And so these guys are just working towards you, and of course mobile, being able to support more of the mobile platform, being able to get your work out in as many different places as possible, particularly in mobile, because the percentages of people consuming on mobile is like off the hook. So you've got to be able to have that. And we have an amazing apps team over there that can provide that for you. You don't really have to think much about it. You just have it. So
that's yes, Rob went into detail when he conversed with us about that, and I yes, I'll just leave it at that. But definitely mobile is the next place to go. So if people want to get in touch with that, yourself, Libsyn, whoever with the Libsyn brand, what's the best way?
Well, you can, I think Twitter's a fantastic place. You can follow @Libsyn for all of Libsyn-related things. And we are, and I am behind that voice. So if you want to contact me about that, or even just, get in touch with me that way, is awesome. My handle is @YoGeek, or YoGeek everywhere. So you can see YoGeek everywhere. You can just Google YoGeek and I will show up.
How did you get that handle? I can't believe that no one else had that.
Well, I thought it was perfect. I just sat down and I remember signing up for Twitter and it said you got a handle. I'm like, what am I? I'm like, I'm a total yoga person, and then I'm a total geek. So why not put those together? Because you can be, yogic, with something yogic. And I thought, I'll just play off of that, and I just grabbed it and I kind of went with that. So you can, follow @YoGeek and talk with me there. I'm also at yogeek.me, which is not a site that I use very often at all, which I'm trying to grow. And Elsie's Yoga Kula, Kula. You can find my podcast just by searching for Elsie's Yoga Class, and I have plenty of free audio classes from moi for you.
Well, family calls, so we're not going to keep you on for much long. Hopefully, you'll have time from the Elsie tour, because I just consider you on tour these days, whether
Thank
it's
you.
on other shows, on Google Plus. I'm loving all the stuff you guys are doing at Libsyn, and the Dr. Vibe show would not be anywhere close to where it would be without
Oh, thank
no, it's
you.
so true with the Libsyn team. So if there's anything that the Dr. Vibe show can do to help the Libsyn family, you guys have done
Thank
so
you.
much for me. We're here for you.
You're so kind. And you know what? Just to wrap up too, one place that we're really growing is not we as in Libsyn, but my friend Jessica Kupferman and I, who is also a lady podcaster. We have a really strong group over on Facebook. It's a
Okay.
woman podcaster group,
Right.
and you can actually, I think you can search for She Podcasts. She Podcasts. It's a group only for women, to women who support each other, women who are podcasters who have strong, vibrant voices, lots of amazing people, lots of amazing conversations in there. So maybe we'll put it in the show notes. I'll give you a link to that
Please.
group. And
That'd
so
be
ladies,
great.
if you're interested, this is a wonderful, warm place to come and ask all your technical questions and all your fears and doubts or all your skills and magic things that you make, and share it with us over there.
All right. Well, that's a wrap. As always, you're listening to the Dr. Vibe, listening and watching to the Dr. Vibe show. I'm your host and producer, Dr. Vibe. You can catch me. Best place. Just go to the website, THEDRVIBESHOW, thedrvibeshow.com. You can also catch me at the Good Men Project. I have the only podcast that's featured on that site, which is and my
Nice.
podcast. Yes, it's the only one. So. Catch me there, and also the monthly Google Hangouts for premium members. I'm a host and also co-producer. And as always, I like to say, you're blessed and highly favored. You're a magnet for miracles, and you're a solution for someone's problem. Thanks very much for watching, whether it was live. And Elsie, we want you back when the next tour stops. Take
Thank
care.
you. I'm happy to come
Bye-bye.
back.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.
Yay.